What's up, peoples? We're doing a raw phone camera one again. This is what I got time for. I couldn't find my microphone. I'll do my best to dig it out and try to see what happened to it. What I want to talk about today is something that does bother me, and I don't know how to convey it in a professional way. I want to be very clear that I am not a Mint shill as much as I like to joke about it. I am not necessarily a GNOME hater, although I do dislike GNOME. I think you gotta make sure you put those in different camps here. It was brought to my attention that there was a spat between the Linux Mint team and the GNOME calendar team. And the best way I can describe this is that Linux Mint does ship GNOME calendar. It is effectively GNOME calendar. It is a very minute fork. And what I mean by that is the Mint team did do a couple things to the app. One, they patched libadwaita to use libadapta instead. This is so the style sheets will all line up and you as a user will get green highlights when you choose green. The window controls look a little bit more like Mint. It was a very nice addition to Mint, and this came in a couple versions of Mint ago and was kind of their compromise with the GNOME libadapta way, or libadwaita way, excuse me. Two, as I was also brought to my attention, they patched a bug where the drop-down menu was bugged out. And I could pull it up and look for it. But basically, they fixed a functionality problem with that. But again, it's largely, probably 90% GNOME code. There has been issues with GNOME Online accounts for some time, not working correctly. Mint themselves basically rewrote part of it inside their own operating system to just work because GNOME only supports certain versions of stuff. The spat came over because there's been a number of people who have submitted a bug report on GNOME Calendar's GitLab that was effectively, oh, this integration is not working correctly, please fix. Here's my details. And in the details, what you would get is they're running like version 46, which is really old and outdated. However, it's what ships with Mint, and so that's what this person's using. And they don't know. They just know, hey, this isn't working. I'm going to report it upstream, and I'm going to be a good guy. And the GNOME dev looks at this and goes, well, I don't support that version anymore. I haven't for a couple of years. Why are you still using it to use the latest version, you dumbass? And then closes it because it's been fixed in the newer version. Now, what the spat is over is there has been a long-standing issue, and KDE, you don't get out of this either. Okay? GNOME and KDE are notorious for this.
I'm in danger!
Nobody supports LTS correctly. LTS is not just old software, old is bad, go run Arch. That seems to be the mentality that I keep hearing. Like, this dev absolutely trashed on Clem and the Mint team, saying it was their fault that they're running this old app. They don't support this app anymore, or at least GNOME doesn't. And they need to update their app forcibly to the new version. Clem respectfully replies, okay, well, we just ship basically what's in Ubuntu. The only thing we did, if you'd like to tell us what we did that makes this our problem, we're happy to have a civil conversation. The dev replies basically all the changes that Mint made, which was libadapta, and then the fix to the drop-down menu. is what he listed out off of the issues page. And Clem's like, yeah, the drop-down menu was a genuine graphical bug that prevented the app from working correctly, so we fixed that. And the libadapta was so it would fit in with our system theme. That's a general thing. It's not just that app. Multiple GNOME apps they've done this to. And Dev's response back is, you should have forked it, you should have rebranded the entire app so it wasn't us, and you should have owned that. Just fork the entire GNOME calendar. The problem is, at what point when you modify something is it not yours anymore and it's someone else's problem? In this case, GNOME doesn't support this stuff for 4 years. In fact, I believe the life cycle is closer to 2. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. The GNOME devs basically only support stuff for 1 to 2 years, if that. And then they either rewrite it or they move on to the next major version of that particular app, and they don't care about the old one anymore and they don't support it. The issue with this is the Debian/Ubuntu life cycle is 4 years. Now, yes, I know you can run LTS way longer than that, but the realistic lifespan is 4 years. You can run them longer, but 4 years is where the realistic timeline is. The problem with this is, well, LTS is supported for, 4 years, right? The GNOME devs only support their app for a very brief amount of time and then say, just run the latest one, it's got all the fixes. KDE does this too with their Plasma desktop and their apps as well. They don't want to support any version of their desktop environment or apps for any longer than humanly possible. They just want you to use the next one when it comes out. And so if something game-breaking happens to the app, they just leave it in a broken state. Now, I get it. You don't want to support old software. LTS is a little different, and this is my argument to this whole conversation. How much effort is it really to have somebody? It can be somebody's, could even be community members, however they want to handle it. Have somebody know, okay, Debian forked it off, stopped right here. So this GNOME version is what they forked off as the LTS. That's going to be supported for 4 years. That specific version will get backported fixes, bug fixes, security fixes. Nothing else. So when a game-breaking bug happens to GNOME Online accounts, we just backport that fix. If it can be backported. Maybe it can't be. I'm not a developer. Then when the 4 years is up, you slap an EOL on that baby and you run away. That gets you through the LTS cycle. Now, why did this GNOME dev blast the Mint team and basically tell them to rip GNOME Calendar out of their operating system? Well, GNOME devs don't want their apps used in anything but GNOME. In fact, they want you to use GNOME, they want you to use vanilla GNOME, even though extensions exist, and their apps definitely can be installed through methods that are very well supported, like Flatpak on other operating systems, but yet, for some reason, they want to control the ends and the means. This came up not that long ago. If some of you have ever followed the app Bottles, it is a reasonable way to run Wine and Windows applications on Wine. It's shipped as a Flatpak, and the developer had this whole explosion because on the Arch AUR and in other repositories like Copper, there was a PPA, in fact, at one time, was reshipping his app as native app. It was a deb, RPM, whatever it was. And basically the dev came out and said, I don't want anything other than Flatpak. This is the only thing I support. This is the only way I want it distributed. And intentionally put in malicious code to stop people from being able to build that app for other operating systems. They weren't redirecting people to go talk to that dev. No. He just basically broke their app. To the point where OpenSUSE had a flame war with them and removed the donate button from their app as retribution for being a little shit. And this has been a long-standing problem. Who's the problem, upstream or downstream? If downstream is running your app years later and a bug with your app happens, are you liable for that? Well, I don't know. If this GNOME dev had just responded, hey, I'm sorry, that version of my app's no longer supported, please write your distribution maintainer and let them know that I only support this version onwards at this point, and they're on their own for support. That would be respectful. That could have been a copy paste, and I'm sure he gets a lot of these reports, and that's why he started a flame war. And Mint was like, look, we just shipped the Ubuntu version other than our little seasoning salt, which doesn't amount to anything in terms of the functionality that was originally reported broken, which was the online integrations was broken. Online integrations was broken because it was broken for multiple versions of GNOME Online accounts and GNOME Calendar, and the GNOME dev just didn't fix it. We're not going to get into that rabbit hole. Who's really at fault? Who knows? But telling Mint they're at fault because they shipped something else that somebody else shipped, it's just wrong. Again, I want to reiterate, I am not a Mint shill. I use what works, and right now that's Mint. If tomorrow that was Debian, I'd be using Debian. If the day after that it was Arch, I would use Arch. So that's my rant for today. We'll see if this turns into a coherent video or not. If you enjoyed, I hope you smash the like button. If you didn't, I understand. Be civil, but let me know in the comments how I'm wrong. I don't want to sit here and bash FOSS software for the sake of bashing them. This came across my feeds, and it really bothered me that this toxicity still exists with GNOME devs, and then people wonder why. I mean, okay, last point. It's a good one. System 76 built an entire desktop environment in Rust. It's not great, but they did it. Do you know why they did it? Because GNOME sucks. GNOME is such a cancer that they decided to fund their own desktop environment rather than continuing to try and contribute upstream. Think about that for a moment. Y'all have a great day.